Hey everyone, and welcome to a brand new video. Tonight we have just a little bit over 2 hours worth of horror stories, ranging from rules, the deep woods, and much, much more. If you do enjoy, please be sure to leave a like. Liking the video helps out immensely. Let's see if we can reach 1,300 likes on this one. I think if everyone took a quick second, we could do it. Subscribing if you are new is also very much appreciated. Half of my viewers actually aren't subscribed, so if you find yourself coming back from time to time, I would love to have you as a subscriber. Anyway, in the last video, I asked where you all like to watch my videos at. To no surprise, most of you said you like to use my content to help you sleep, and I think that that's awesome. I also had quite a few people say that they listen while they're on their way to work, or while they're at work, or when they play video games. Somebody even said they like to listen on the toilet, so I'm glad I can help out. But yeah, it was really cool seeing so many comments on that video. I think we're close to like 300 comments, and I don't think I have very many videos on this whole entire channel that have that many comments, so it was really cool seeing that. And I'd kind of like to keep asking questions in the intro of each video. I'll make future intros shorter than this one, I promise. But my question for today, on the topic of video games, what is all of your favorite video game of all time? For me, it is Jet Set Radio Future. It was one of the very first games I got for the original Xbox back when I was a little kid. I played through that game probably a dozen times throughout my life, and funnily enough, one of the music producers for that game ended up following me on Twitter because he's like a huge supporter of trans people and everything, and that was pretty cool. So it's always cool when like you're a fan of something and then you find out that there are like decent people behind the production that you enjoy so much. I don't know, I thought it was cool. Unfortunately, I ended up deleting my Twitter and making a new one, so I'm not followed by him anymore, but that's okay. Anyway, yeah, drop a comment letting me know your favorite game of all time. Feel free to have some conversations about it. Feel free to elaborate. I'm actually looking for more games to play currently, so maybe I will read through all of the comments and maybe get some ideas on what I should play through. Anyway, enjoy the video, sit back, relax, grab a coffee, pack a bowl, whatever it is that you do to relax, and enjoy. And of course, as always, I hope you all have a great night. I am 20 years old, but I was adopted in the 1950s. No, this isn't a diary or a letter. I'm writing this on the 11th of September 2022. The Queen of England died 3 days ago. I was adopted on June 22nd of 1951. I don't remember the home I was in before they adopted me. I just remember the house. It was like one of those big spooky mansions you would hear of in those old horror stories. Everything was broken, creaky, and bleak. A cobweb in every corner of every room. But it was a place to call home. My mother was a cold woman, like a witch, but with rules. Lots of rules, but they were strange. I never truly realized why there was so many, or why they were so strange until I ran away. She had cats. We never met them. Just heard them scuttering around at night and during the day. Their soft meows echoing through the cracks in the walls. She told us all they were what she called scaredy cats, and would run away at the sight of humans. Rule 1. Never leave your bedroom door unlocked past 11 p.m. It's an invitation. I never knew what she meant by invitation. I never unlocked my door unless it was mealtime or TV time. Each night between 11:30 p.m. to 12 a.m., we would hear 3 knocks. Rule 2. When you hear the 3 knocks, don't answer. Just turn out the light. I'd turn out the lights, and each time with a little huff would come from outside the door, and the sound of what I thought were footsteps would move away. Although some nights there would be a single knock. Rule 3. If you only hear one knock, you have 10 seconds. Hide under the bed or in the closet. Keep your eyes closed. Once you hear the door lock, you're safe. A single knock. I swiftly sprung out of bed and made my way under the bed, closing my eyes and holding my breath, until it struck me. Why couldn't we look? What was it? Curiosity struck me and I slowly opened my right eye, and then my left. My hand smacked over my mouth to stop myself from screaming. Rule 4. Do not go outside. All the windows were boarded up, doors locked. There was no way we could look outside apart from whatever they put on the TV or the papers. Only person allowed outside was Mother. We would be locked inside the TV room. One time little brother Timmy wandered off and never came back. Rule 5. Do not wander off. Bedtime. It takes us all a long time to get to bed. We can't leave Mother's side. We all walk behind her as we crouch, tiptoe, and shuffle through the narrow hallways as quiet as mice. She told us it was so we wouldn't scare the cats. Cats attack when they are scared. They don't act like the cats we see during TV time. Rule 6. Don't unlock the doors during TV time. Felix the cat was on. It was our favorite as kids. It would drown out the constant scratching at the doors when we all sat down to watch. Rule 7. If you see one of the cats, run and hide. Don't tell the others what you saw. I quivered underneath my bed at the sight of the cat. It was unlike any cat I had seen before. It was large, 6 feet tall, and crawled on all fours. I couldn't see its face, but I could see the drool pool on the wooden floor beneath its long, bony legs. It began to walk, or should I say crawl, away towards the door. I closed my eyes and sighed in relief. That was until I opened my eyes again. Then all I felt was fear. Rule 8. No food in bedrooms. Food must be eaten and finished at the table. The smell will attract them. I came down early one day for breakfast. I saw Mother pouring milk into a glass bottle. I was confused. The milk she was pouring looked new. It was in a plastic sort of jug with a green lid with the expiry date 5th of November 2012. This new milk sure did last long. Maybe the glass bottles made them last longer. Rule 9. Put leftover food in the cat bowls. Whenever we couldn't finish food, we would always put them in the cat bowls as a little treat for the cats. They never ate it. They didn't like it. They didn't like anything we gave them. They were never happy. They wanted more. They wanted flesh. Rule 10. Run. Its yellow beady eyes stared back at me, a blue collar dangling from its neck. I froze in fear. I had to run. I managed to get out and run past it. It screeched behind me and I heard its feet tapping rapidly as it chased after me. I ran as fast as I could away from the cat and through the hallways, until I finally lost it. It wasn't safe here. I needed to run. I began to look around for an exit. The doors and windows were boarded up with wood and nails. There was no way I could get it open. I looked around, panicked for a way out. That was when I saw it. A vent. It was small but big enough for me to squeeze through. The chair scraped noisily against the ground as I pulled it across the kitchen floor and lined it up under the vent. I climbed on top of it and grabbed onto the ledge of the vent and attempted to pull myself up, falling down a couple of times back into the chair. I was about to attempt again, until I heard a soft meow and the jangle of a bell behind me. I slowly turned my head towards the dark hallways behind me, and I saw two yellow beady eyes looking towards me in the darkness of the hallway. It continued to meow, scratching at the walls either side of it, each meow a different pitch and tone as if it were multiple cats at once. I swung my leg up into the vent, pulling myself up, its footsteps rapidly coming towards me, and along with a loud screech, I clambered into the vent and began to crawl through the maze of vents, trying to find a way out. I could hear cars like the ones on TV. Breeze hit me and goosebumps grew like little mounds on my skin because of the cold breeze. Or so I thought. I look behind me and there it is, running up behind me with a ear-piercing screech. It was hunched in order to fit in the narrow vent, which only made it look more terrifying. I crawled as quick as I could towards the noise. The sound of cars growing closer, but so did the quick taps of the cat's feet. I could see it, the vent. I crawled towards it, my knees red and torn apart from the friction between my skin and the vent floor. I began to kick at the vent, sweat dripping down my face. I looked backwards towards the creature who was closing in on me. With all my might, I gave it one final kick and it fell off its hinges, hitting on the concrete ground with a thump. I slid out and landed on the pavement with a crack. Excruciating pain shot through my right arm, but I didn't care. I scrambled to my feet and looked at the vent. It stared at me with its devious yellow eyes and backed away slowly with a soft growl, and a soft jingle from the bell that hung from its collar. I looked at the house from afar, and saw my siblings and mother looking out the large living room window. They all grinned at me as their eyes flashed yellow for a mere second, before they backed off into the darkness. I faced towards the street. Everything was colorful, vibrant. The cars were odd. They were fast. They didn't look anything like the black and white ones I saw on the television. There was pictures that moved along big signs and buildings, and people wore nice clothes. Short skirts and nothing like the rags I had to wear. Food smelt and looked good. It wasn't like the thick gray stuff I always had to eat just so I wouldn't starve. I ran around like a headless chicken, dirt-coated face and clothing ragged. I bumped into a strange woman with a friendly face, squinting as the sun beamed towards me from behind her as I asked, "Excuse me, miss, I'm lost." She let out a small laugh. "You certainly are. You look like something right out of the 50s. I looked confused at her. "But it's 1953. Her face fell and her brows furrowed. A concerned look plastered on her face. 1953? Darling, it hasn't been 1953 in 60 years. It's 2012. My eyes bulged and I looked around, bewildered. I saw a stray newspaper on the ground and took it in my hands. Looking at the front page, my eyes landed on the date, November 5th, 2012. I pulled it away from my face and looked towards the house in which I escaped, but it wasn't there. It was a pile of wooden planks. I walked towards it, kneeling down on the rubble and running my hands through it. My hands hit a hard object. It made a sound similar to a worn-out bell. I pull on the object, and with a yank out it came. A blue collar. I was lazily searching the internet for whatever I could find to cure my boredom. I even tried a couple of BuzzFeed quizzes. That level of boredom. For context, I'd just been fired from my job, and despite my girlfriend's encouragement, it's been tough to look for new jobs, or pretty much do anything productive. I guess she's noticed because her encouragement turned to rage as she screamed at me to do something with my life and left for her mother's. I haven't been drinking enough, I'd say. The quizzes were stupid. I'm 100% not a Ross. So I went looking for something else. On the side was an ad for a site claiming to be the hardest would you rather questions in the world. And I thought, why not? Maybe I'd get a laugh on how choosing which topping on a pizza was hard, but I wish I listened to it. The first question was really simple. It asked if I'd rather be immortal via age but killable, or be unkillable but can die by age. I of course picked the former. Like any reasonable human. The second was, would you rather be able to fly or be able to turn invisible? I chose flying. It went on like this for some time, showing the percentages of what previous people chose. It was about the seventh question. That's when they asked, would you rather die via gunshot or a knife? I gotta be honest. This question seemed stupid to me, so I went to click out of the tab, and that's when a pop-up came up. An image of me, right then, picking immortal, captioned, please finish your questions, with a smiley face. And despite the fact I pressed the X already, the tab was still there, now with a timer counting down. I chose gunshot, very freaked out and ready to call the police. The next was, would you rather never be found or have people think you took yourself out? Sweat trickled down my forehead as I clicked the latter. Good choice. It goes well with gunshot. A chat bubble came up. Would you rather tell your mother that you want to take yourself out, or tell your father you'll never live up to anything? I clicked the latter. It was a bunch of these questions getting more personal or more grotesque. When I tried to call the cops, the pop-up stated that was a non-advisable avenue. Freaking out, I reasoned that this was just some dumb prank. My girlfriend probably took that picture and paid for ad space on it, or messed with my computer, all just to make my lazy butt get up, right? I stood up, done with this game, throwing my chair on the floor and wondering what the actual hell was going on, when my computer's sound suddenly turned itself fully up and said, would you rather kill your parents or keep playing? I froze, unable to force myself to walk forward. It felt like hours, but it could have only been minutes. 15 seconds to make a choice, Stefan. I gulped and selected continue playing. It knew my name, my location, and I wasn't risking my parents on a guess about a prank, not after everything they did for me. Good, only a few questions left. The chat bubble taunted me. Would you rather your house catch on fire or your neighbors? I clicked my neighbors and looked out the window and saw nothing. I sighed and then started laughing like a maniac. I mean, why would I believe they'd actually do anything I said, right? What an idiot I was. I saw the light before I heard the screams, frozen in shock. I looked back to the screen, the chat bubble chastising me for being a selfish. I wanted to smash the screen at the irony. Would you rather get stabbed in the shoulder, or make sure your neighbors don't get help? I'd like to tell you guys I hesitated in this one, but I didn't. I hate the idea of being stabbed. It's why I chose the gunshot. Besides, they were probably already dead, I think. I'd bet. I mean, they must have been, right? Congratulations. 2 more questions. I sighed in relief until I saw it on the screen. Would you rather 10 random people die, or you die? I already sacrificed my neighbor. Twice, and so many people die every day. I mean, who's to say they'd really do it? I have to admit I was grasping at straws here, My self-preservation was kicking in, but my heart was pounding, anxiously looking around. I gulped once more, moving on to the final question, hoping to whatever god that would listen that it'd be an easy one. I felt the cold barrel of the gun on the back of my head before the last question came up, and a "don't look back" muffled through an altered voice from behind me once more. Deciding to listen to it, I looked at my last question, one I'm sure will answer your question of why I'm admitting to this at all. Would you rather admit to your aid in the murder of 11 people, or have a bullet travel from the back of your head, through your skull, into the computer screen? Shaking, I moved the mouse over to the former. I hoped maybe they'd accept I was forced against my will. Maybe manslaughter, as I could convince them I didn't know. Something. The rules were in an abundum. I had to do it in a way anyone could gain the means to access it. I couldn't delete it, and I had to hand myself into the police afterwards. I really didn't want to, but I couldn't just let myself die after everything, right? I had to survive, to do something with my life. They haven't left yet. They said I could choose the form, so I chose this one. I hope you guys won't judge me. I hope you'll give me advice. I really need it. I don't know why they're doing this to me. What did I do? I'm not sure what'll happen to me soon, but I wanted to make a post so that at least there's a record of my night. I'm at work, working an overnight shift. I'm fortunate enough to have worked my way into my dream job, and I love everything about it. I work in the film business. The road has been long, the work is hard, and the trials have been immense at times, but after years of pursuing the dream, I've worked my way into the glamour of Hollywood. Tonight we're shooting a big new movie deep in the woods of northern Massachusetts. I can't say what movie, due to an NDA agreement, but hopefully anybody reading this that knows about it will be able to pinpoint this to me. Tonight I've been tasked with sitting and guarding our truck, occasionally running gear down to the set a mile away in the vehicle the production has provided me with. It's been a lovely night. A bit chilly, but such is the case when fall begins to settle in here in New England. Every so often I've heard the occasional animal rustling, the call of a nocturnal bird, and the crickets chirp over the dull roar of the generator that keeps the lights on in our truck. Other than running gear down to my crew, my duties include keeping the generator running so that the lights remain on. This is important so that other production vehicles running up and down the pitch-black road can see me and our things, and safely drive around on their way to set for their respective duties as well. Our truck is the only one on this particular stretch of forest road, and something about the light bleeding into a seemingly endless stretch of darkness is beautiful, surreal, and comforting. I felt this way, of course, until the generator ran out of gas the first time. As soon as the generator fell silent and the darkness enveloped me fully, I heard a louder than usual rustling about 100 feet into the tree line. The steps sounded like a larger, heavier animal than I had been assuming might be near me. Heavy, plodding footsteps began to sound as though they were walking towards me. Branches rustled, and I heard deep, long sniffing sounds, as though whatever was there had taken an interest in my direction. I turned on my unfortunately low battery headlamp to try and see what was there, but as soon as I turned on the dim light, the moving stopped. I couldn't see anything in the tree line, but quickly filled the generator back up with gasoline and got the lights back on. After the generator began to roar once more, hours passed and I didn't hear another thing from inside the forest. other than the usual sounds of nature that had surrounded me before. Alone at my post, enjoying what had begun to seem like my safe haven of light, I grew comfortable once more, chalking the noises up to it just being an animal that was frightened off by the sudden roar of the generator. I am in the forest after all, and this is their home. Then the generator began to falter again. When the lights died, the footsteps began again from exactly where they had stopped. Branches rustled and snapped from what seemed like 10 feet in the air, as the steps got closer and closer. As I reached for my headlamp again, I looked up. About 20 feet away from me, and towering above me, were two eyes staring down at me. I froze, unable to bring myself to even turn on the light. The two eyes were like crimson-colored cat's eyes with a golden backlight. Whatever those eyes belonged to stood motionless, and sniffed in deeply again. Its eyes widened as it took another step in my direction. I snapped back out of it and turned my light on, aiming it in the direction of whatever I was looking at. As my light turned on, the eyes vanished, like a shadow. Its footsteps stopped too. Panicking, I hurried over to the generator and filled it with gas once more. There wasn't much left in the can, probably only enough for another hour or two of power at best. So, I turned the generator on and called my boss. Trying to remain calm, I told him we needed the fuel truck to swing by and refill our can. He told me he'd let the transport folks know and they'd be by as soon as they could. That was about 90 minutes ago, and I haven't seen a single other vehicle come this way. I hope they come soon. My headlamp seems to be dead now, and the generator sounds like it's running low on fuel again. Hi, my name is Sasha, and I just moved here with my boyfriend Jason. We're both new to the city, and we just moved into our new apartment near the end of Church Street. We were excited to start our new life here, and love the area. The eating is great, and everyone seems to be friendly, though after about 2 weeks now, we've been having problems with our water. The first thing that happened was our water started to turn black, and I swear, thicker. I don't know if it's because the water heater is old or the pipes are rusted and slimy, but it started to really bother me. I researched common issues why this would happen, and turns out magnesium is found in water and when mixed with oxygen turns black. Jason says I'm overthinking it, but I just can't help myself. He only drinks from a store-bought gallon jug of water. He won't even touch the filtered tap. He says the water is fine and doesn't see anything wrong with it. I have to visit my coworker's place down the hall to shower. I feel icky using the water here, and I'm too embarrassed to tell Jason. He'd make fun of me for sure if he knew how much this was affecting me. I've been having nightmares about it. I'm sure it's because of all the stress about moving, plus all of what is happening. In my dreams, there's this murky black liquid trying to overwhelm me. It almost feels like drowning, but not really. It's hard to describe. It feels more like a struggle. It wants to dominate me. As it fills my lungs, it lets me breathe. But once I catch my breath, it takes it away until I willingly let go. It won't stop until it is my choice to give in. I fight it and wake up in a pool of sweat. I've tried to tell Jason about my dreams, but he just laughs it off and tells me I'm overthinking things again, that I'm just stressed out because of the move. I want to believe him. I really do, but there's something about the water here that feels off, like it's poisoned or cursed. Just typing that feels like I'm losing it. I went down to visit my neighbor, Mrs. Janice, 3 doors down, and she was telling me how her son had the same problem with his water a few years back. She even showed me some pictures of what it looked like. I had her send me a copy of the photo so I could show Jason. Maybe if he saw it with his own eyes, he would believe me. When I got back to our apartment, Jason was in the kitchen cooking dinner and I showed him the picture. He just brushed it off and said that the water looked fine to him and to stop acting foolish. I couldn't believe he was being so dismissive. I started getting really mad and started yelling at him. I accused him of not believing me and not caring about my feelings. He just stood there and took it until I stopped and then calmly asked me what was going on. I told him I didn't know, but that I just couldn't shake this feeling that something was wrong. He finally agreed to call maintenance and have them come to take a look at our water. Maybe there was something wrong with it after all. The maintenance man came by the next day and checked things out, but said everything looked fine to him. He did say that we might want to get our water tested just in case though. Jason assured him we would do that and thanked him for his time. I asked Jason if he would please take me to get a water test done. I told him about the nightmares and how stressed out I've been feeling. He finally realized how serious this was for me and promised. We went to the store and got a test kit and everything came back normal. Jason was so relieved and kept telling me I was overthinking things. I wanted to believe him. I really did, but I just couldn't shake this feeling that something was wrong. A few days later, I woke up early morning and found the water so dark pooling in my bathroom sink that the light above didn't even reflect off the surface of the water. I was so startled that when I went to grab my phone to take a picture, I dropped my phone in the water. I quickly flashed it out and was able to take the picture. I'm sorry for the quality. I just dropped it in what I think is liquid. I had the light on, I swear. It looks like water has gotten into my lens. After work, I showed Jason the same picture I just showed you. He said that the sink is empty. I'm so tired I can't think straight. I haven't been sleeping because of my dreams. What's happening to me? Is the water really not there? Or am I just going crazy? Jason and I got into another fight and he is staying at his friend's place for a couple of days. Edit. It has been a couple of days and I feel like I'm losing my mind. I've been calling out sick at work and Jason still hasn't come home and I'm alone. I've been sitting in the bathroom staring at the sink for hours now, just waiting for something to happen. I'm so thirsty. I haven't drunk anything, really, since this all started. Maybe if I drink some water it will help me feel better. Maybe the water is normal after all. Maybe I'm just overthinking things like Jason keeps telling me. Maybe he will come home after I just get over whatever this is, and we can go back to how things were. I'm going to drink some of the water now. I hope it will help me feel better. I took another picture before drinking from the glass. It is black. Light won't even pass through it when I hold it up to the ceiling light in the kitchen. I'm sorry again about the dark photo. Not really much to see other than it. I feel so dizzy. I don't know what's happening to me. The water tasted so strange. I think I'm going to vomit. I'm going to take sleeping meds after my stomach settles. Thank you to everyone who has helped me. I don't know what to do next. I just need to get some rest. I'm so exhausted. I hope I can forget about all this and get some rest. Edit. I keep seeing the water in my dreams. I woke up sweaty again. I'm going to take a shower. I need to get over this. Edit. The water was so cold and dark. It feels like I can't breathe. I can't think. I can't feel it. I'm so tired. I just want to sleep. Edit. I'm so thirsty. I feel like I'm going to die. I need water. Edit. I'm so tired I can't keep my eyes open. I'm going to drink some more water. Edit. I feel like I'm losing my mind. I see the water everywhere I go. It's surrounding me. I think I'm going to let it. I'm so tired. I just want to be done. My wife and I have been married for 10 years. We met in college and got married right after graduation. Once we established our careers in our respected fields, we decided to start a family. Unfortunately, after 3 years of trying and trying, we had not been able to produce a child. It was time to see a doctor. After some tests, it was determined that my wife was unable to have children. The doctor suggested a few options, including adoption. The thought of another woman carrying our baby in her womb or adopting a stranger's child did not appeal to my wife. We decided in the end that we loved each other and were just going to focus on our marriage. At least, that was the plan. Years went by, we focused on the materialistic aspects of life, vacations, and such luxuries. I will admit it, seeing our peers starting families and hearing them talk about childhood milestones was annoying to me. I guess you can say I was internally bitter and jealous. I had all but given up on the idea of having a baby. Then I met the woman of my dreams, or should I say, in my dreams. The first time I met her in my dreams was 1.5 years ago. It is nothing erotic or sexual. I felt peace and comfortable. I couldn't describe her at first due to the fact that she was a shadow essentially. Yet I felt her embrace me and I was at peace. The only downside was even though I was sleeping 8 hours, I woke up exhausted. I was looking forward to bedtime each day, not because my wife and I were going to be intimate. That had stopped after year 7 of our marriage. I'm not saying we were unhappy, but my wife had lost interest since we could produce no offspring. Each night I was finding the comfort and the affection I was lacking in the woman from my dreams. It quickly became sexual as the shadow's features revealed themselves to me. I was hypnotized by her beauty. Don't get me wrong, I love my wife. The woman in my dreams was similar to her, but her eyes were full of the desire that had long ago faded in my marriage. The dreams became more intense and I even started napping at work, just so I could see her again. I was super exhausted, even though I was sleeping and napping all the time. My wife, on the other hand, seemed to be looking refreshed and prettier. She was dressing in more revealing clothes. It was as if she was evolving into the woman from my dreams. I was enjoying this new version of my wife. Maybe I was starting to imagine stuff from my fantasy dreams. Regardless, I felt guilty. I had the final dream a month ago. As usual, I was eager to fall asleep and didn't even wait until bedtime. The dream started strange. I was with the woman. She was pregnant, and I mean pregnant, 8 or 9 months by my estimate. I was confused because most times it was straight to sex, but this was different. This felt real. I could tell she was uncomfortable. I wanted to have my usual dream, but felt uneasy. I wanted to wake up. This wasn't fun anymore. The scene changed to a hospital delivery room. The woman in my dream was in labor. I sat by her side as the doctor and the nursing staff were moving around her. She was told to start pushing, and as she did, she let out a demonic sound. I had never heard her make this noise, not even when we did the deed before. I was scared for the first time. I looked upon her face and saw the most disgusting demonic face. I looked down to see what she was giving birth to, and it was a sleeping version of my wife. I woke up in a cold sweat. I was in my own bed next to my wife. I reached over to hold my wife for comfort. She was concerned, and I reassured her that it was all a bad dream. I could feel her warmth and something else I hadn't felt in a while. She moved into me, and for the first time in a long time we made love. I drifted off to sleep, and for the first time in months, I had dreamless sleep. We made a doctor's appointment for my wife a few weeks later. She had not been feeling well. She was feeling nauseous and dizzy at times. After the doctor ran some tests, including a pregnancy test, that I thought was unnecessary since my wife couldn't get pregnant, the doctor came into the room smiling. He congratulated us. My wife was pregnant according to the test results. He gave us information and again congratulated us. I was on cloud 9. My wife and I were going to become parents against all odds. I was trying so hard not to cry from happiness. As we made our way to receptionist area to make the next appointment, I stopped at the large mirror hanging on the wall. I adjusted my glasses, and in the reflection behind me was my now pregnant wife talking to the receptionist. She turned to ask me about the appointment. In the mirror's reflection was the woman from the dream. Her face was demonic. She smiled at me and said, "We've never been happier." Look closely. The world is not as it seems. Alex said in the deepest, most dramatic voice a 10-year-old could muster. What you see is not always what you get. Prepare yourselves as we step into a new reality. A reality unlike anything you've ever seen. I stifled a laugh. Where do you get this stuff? He shrugged. I saw it on TV. He was using his regular voice again. You see, while most boys his age put on capes to play Batman or Superman, Alex would put on a cape to play Harry Houdini. I have to admit, he looked the part. The jet black hair slicked back beneath the oversized top hat, the plastic wand protruding from his breast pocket, the dollar store clip-on bow tie. It all contributed flawlessly to the act. Alex cleared his throat before resuming the theatrics. He brandished a deck of playing cards from behind his back and shuffled them crudely on the coffee table. When he was done, he fanned the deck in front of our faces. All we could see was the design on the back of each card, the abstract red flourishes, and the Cupid-esque figures facing one another. "Pick a card, any card," he said with a massive grin. "Hey, genius," Erica began. "The cards are supposed to be facing us." Alex's cheeks turned red. "I meant to do that," he muttered before shuffling the deck again and correcting his mistake. Now holding the cards in the correct orientation, he repeated his instructions. I drew a card and turned to Erica. I shot her a look that said, "Stop being mean to your little brother." She knew that look all too well. I studied the card and returned it to the middle of the deck while Alex turned his head and closed his eyes tight. "Do you remember which one you picked?" "Yes, honey, I'm pretty sure I've got it." He shuffled the deck one last time, pulled a card off the top, and displayed it with the showman's flair. "The 3 of diamonds. Is this your card?" he said with a self-satisfied smirk. I pursed my lips and shook my head. A wave of disappointment washed over his face. "All part of the show," he said with feigned enthusiasm. He yanked a card from the bottom of the deck, the 10 of spades. "How about this?" "Sorry, bud." Without a word, he turned around and hid his hands from our view while he nervously fumbled with the cards for a moment. Turning back to face us, he removed his top hat and withdrew another card from within. A joker. "You're supposed to remove those from the deck, dummy." Erica was growing restless. I nudged her with my elbow. "That was impressive, but still not my card." I told him. It was the Queen of Hearts. Mom, he shouted, stomping his foot. You're not supposed to tell me. I was gonna get it. Yeah, Erica said, nodding her head facetiously. Another 60 tries and you would have nailed it, no doubt. Okay, Alex said. I'll try that one again tomorrow. For my next trick, Erica interjected. You know, Houdini's big trick was to let someone punch him in the stomach as hard as they could. Maybe we could try that. He ignored her and continued. For my next trick, I'll need a rabbit. Can we go to the pet store? I stroked my chin as if to ponder the question. It's a nice idea, but magicians can conjure rabbits out of thin air. They don't need to buy them. Before he could respond, Erica butted in once more. Remind me again why I couldn't be an only child. Okay, Miss Too Cool for School. Go to your room. Finally. She practically skipped upstairs without missing a beat, leaving me alone with Alex. I reassured him that he was doing a great job already. I need more practice, he finally admitted. I'm going to skip ahead of the grand finale. I've been working really hard on this one. You're going to love it. He took me by the hand and led me through the hall to our downstairs bathroom. I'll need a volunteer for this one, he said. I jokingly looked to my left, then to my right before raising my hand. Wonderful. What's your name, ma'am? He asked. I stared at him in silence for a few seconds before telling him that he would be calling me Mom. Okay, Mom, he said with finger quotes. You wait right here. I'm going to go inside and close the door. Once I say the magic words, you open it. Do you know the magic words? Please and thank you. He rolled his eyes and stepped inside, hastily closing the door behind him. I noticed that he hadn't turned on the light. Abracadabra, alakazam. I decided to just wait long enough for him to get into position, but I didn't hear any movement. When I finally opened the door, I was met with a dark bathroom. Very impressive. I began as I slowly inched my way to the fully drawn shower curtain. I wonder where Alex could be. I yanked back the curtain, prepared for my big gotcha moment. But the shower was empty save for a shampoo bottle that must have fallen onto the porcelain bottom. I must admit, I was puzzled. Could he still fit in the cabinets under the sink? My question was answered immediately as I opened the doors and saw nothing but cleaning supplies, spare toothbrushes, and water pipes that surely rendered the space too tight for a child of his size. Okay, I thought. He climbed onto the counter, opened the window, crawled outside, and closed it again, all in the 20 seconds that I waited in the hall. Had it even been 20 seconds. I opened the window and looked at the rose bush that covered the ground beneath. It was riddled with thorns and showed no signs of disturbance. There was no way he had gone outside. He really has been practicing, I thought. I flicked on the bathroom light and stood in silence for a while. I wasn't sure what to do next. My heart started to race as I grew faint. I threw open the door to the medicine cabinet. I'm not sure why I did that because it was about a foot wide with roughly 2 inches of depth. Shit, I said aloud, noticing that his EpiPen was missing. Was this some elaborate scheme? Was he running away from home? I ransacked the ground floor of our home, combing through every room for a sign of Alex as I shouted his name at the top of my lungs. I checked our video doorbell feed from my smartphone to look for signs of motion by the front door. Nothing in the last hour besides a few cars driving down our quiet suburban street. As I was haphazardly throwing the sofa cushions across our living room, I heard the sound of footsteps descending from upstairs. Mom? Erica called out to me. I turned to face her as she leaned against the banister. She looked concerned. "What's going on?" "Where's Alex?" I asked. I was so exasperated I could barely get the words out. "Alex? Where is your brother?" I was screaming now. "Mom, Erica trailed off. I knew it. She has to be involved in whatever prank he's pulling. "Did you hear him go upstairs? Go check his room, please." She stared at me blankly for a moment before darting back up the stairs. I fell to the floor in tears and pulled at my hair. When I finally felt strong enough, I brought myself back to my feet and called out to my daughter. "Erica, any luck?" No response. I quietly made my way up the staircase and saw that her bedroom door was ajar. I heard the unmistakable sounds of murmuring. She was talking to someone. He's with her, I thought. They're going to give me a heart attack for a few minutes of childhood fun, and they don't even like each other. I felt a knot in my stomach as I crept closer to her bedroom door and realized that she wasn't talking to Alex at all. "Dad, please. This is serious. We have to call someone." Shit, Alex is in danger and she knows it. She doesn't want to tell me what's really going on. I burst into her room as she gasped and dropped her phone. "Where is he?" I screamed. I rifled through her closet and under her bed. "What did he do? What did you do?" Erica was sitting in her reading chair by the window, sobbing into her hands. "Mom, you have to stop this," she begged. I said some things to her, things I would never say to one of my children under normal circumstances before storming out of her room. I trudged down the hall to Alex's room and threw the door open. I didn't know how to process what I saw inside. Alex's bed, his posters, his toys, the dirty laundry that always littered the floor. It was all gone. All of it had been replaced. There was a mahogany desk covered in notepads and manila envelopes, a filing cabinet, even an exercise bike in the corner of the room. The carpet was an entirely different color. How is this possible? I tried to remember exactly when I had last set foot in this room. I was sure it had been earlier that day, but maybe not. Maybe someone had done this overnight. That desk looked like it weighed at least 200 pounds. So this was not a one-man job, let alone a one-child job. Perhaps this was all part of Alex's grand finale. My phone began to ring. I retrieved it from my pocket and checked the caller ID. Christopher, my husband. It was nearly 5 o'clock, so he should be coming home soon. I swiped my thumb across the screen to answer the call. "Christopher, sweetie, what the hell is going on? Who did this?" "Angie, where are you?" he asked. I told him I was in Alex's room. "Angie, this isn't funny." I wasn't amused, but I laughed anyway. "You know what's not funny, Christopher? You're not funny. I know you're in on this. What did you do? Where is our son?" "Okay, I'm leaving the office now. Please stay put," he pleaded. "Go lie down for a minute and I'll be right over. I just have to swing by my house and grab a few." "What are you talking about?" I interrupted him. "I already told you. We're at the house now. If you don't tell me what's going on, I'm calling the cops." "Please don't call the cops again. Just say where you are. I'll be..." I ended the call. I did not have time to put up with this. With any of what they were doing. I needed to search the backyard and check in with the neighbors. He couldn't have gone far. I walked out of Alex's room and slammed the door so hard that I thought I heard something break. I couldn't stand to look at what was in there anymore, so I didn't bother to check. I made my way toward the staircase, past Erica's room. She was still audibly sobbing inside. As I descended into the foyer, something in my periphery stopped me dead in my tracks. I didn't know exactly what I saw, but I could tell something was out of place in our living room, and it wasn't just the dismantled sofa. My eyes darted across the television stand, the magazines and coasters atop the coffee table, and finally the fireplace. Sitting atop the mantel was a row of framed photographs, but they were different. Some of them were familiar. Erica's baptism, her first soccer game, her first school dance. But there was no pictures from our wedding, and no pictures of Alex. At least, not the Alex that I knew. Resting face down in the center of the mantel was the largest picture frame of them all. I turned it over and studied the photograph carefully. Christopher and I were seated on a hospital bed. We looked at least a decade younger. I was in a gown, my hair greasy and disheveled. We were both forcing smiles, but there was an unmistakable grief behind them. Our eyes were bloodshot and puffy. In my arms, I was cradling an infant, swaddled in a baby blue blanket. Though he was obviously a newborn, he had a full head of jet black hair. His skin was solid gray. He looked eerily still, even in a photograph. "Mom?" a voice called from behind me. I hadn't heard Erica come back downstairs. "Sweetie?" I said as I raised the photograph. My voice broke as tears streamed down my face. "What is this?" Erica carefully stepped closer. "You know what it is, Mom." She reached out and gently grasped my shoulder to comfort me. I jerked away and threw the picture against the wall. The glass shattered and scattered across the floor as the frame landed face down once again. I stood atop the debris and pointed a shaking finger at the floor. "This isn't us. This never happened." "You need to look at it, Mom. I think it might help you." I brought myself to the floor, sitting on broken glass and crying while my daughter held me. I contemplated turning the picture over and taking another look, but my tears were coming too quickly for me to see anything anyway. After more than an hour, my tear ducts were empty and I had finally regained control of my breathing. Erica and I hadn't spoken another word. "I don't want to look at it. I want to go. Can we go?" I begged. "Yeah," Erica said. "Yeah, Mom, we can go." As she stood up and offered to help me to my feet, I took one last glance at the picture frame that I couldn't bring myself to turn over. The dust cover that held the photograph in place behind the glass had become dislodged from the frame, presumably in the impact with the wall. Something was peeking out from behind it. A small piece of paper, red and white. I grasped the corner of it, careful not to embed any glass shards in my hand. The paper was smooth and waxy. I slid it out from between the photograph and the dust cover. A white card with red flourishes. 2 figures that looked like Cupid, that looked like Alex, faced one another. I laughed. I laughed and I laughed until I could hardly breathe, while Erica stood completely still. She seemed afraid and clearly didn't know how to react. "Mom," she said sheepishly, "are you okay?" I fell onto my back and held the card up high above me, continuing to examine what was printed on the back as my hearty laughter faded into stifled giggles. Erica peered down at me from above. "Look closely," I said. "It's the Queen of Hearts, isn't it?" Something follows me around my basement, and it's finally gone upstairs. I've always told my friends that my house is haunted. It used to be a joke. Used to be. My basement has always had an odd feeling to it. It makes weird noises, The temperature fluctuates constantly. And then there are the echoes. Sometimes when I walk around, I hear someone. Something walking right behind me. I assumed it was echoes at first, but it never happened on a consistent basis. Regardless of the numerous, perfectly rational explanations for what could be causing the footsteps, it creeped me out so much I began a ritual of sprinting up the stairs, throwing open the door, and shutting it behind me as fast as I could whenever I heard them. Thankfully, they never followed me up. Until last week. My neighborhood was experiencing a power outage at night due to high winds, and my phone was about to run out of charge. I remembered a battery charger I'd stored in the basement after a hiking trip. Now, I wasn't thrilled about having to run downstairs in the dark, but I was bored and didn't want my phone to die. At first, everything was fine. I was rummaging around looking for my charger, getting frustrated with myself for not remembering exactly where I'd put it. The wind was raging outside, so I didn't hear them at first. The footsteps were walking on their own, and they were coming towards me. As they got louder, I was alerted to their presence and forced myself to turn around. Nothing but darkness. I bolted upstairs, with the footsteps close on my trail but slightly out of sync with my own. It sounded like a heartbeat. Thump, 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 thump. I made it to the top, opened the door, and slammed it shut behind me. I heard something bang into the wood, followed my footsteps getting fainter. It had gone back down. I breathed a sigh of relief. I moved a chair under the doorknob just in case. A couple of days ago, I decided to invite some friends of mine over to stay the night. We'd been watching old paranormal shows and, wanting to conduct our own investigation, I offered up my basement. I hadn't been back since the power outage. We bought a temperature reader, spirit box, and headlamps, as well as brought our own cameras and flashlights. Looking back, it was certainly overkill and a little ridiculous, but the humor of it eased my fears of returning to the basement. I wanted my house back. 2 of my friends stayed upstairs and the other 3 went down into the basement with me. We were cracking jokes in the lead up, but it was clear that the mood was tense. I moved the chair out from under the doorknob, and we carefully opened the door and peered inside. Everything looked normal. I let out a sigh. At least the thing hadn't trashed my stuff. Slowly, we all made our way down the stairs. We left the lights off and used flashlights to see in front of us. After about half an hour of fiddling with the temperature reader and the spirit box and getting no significant results, we were about to call it a night. That was until we realized our mistake. We had left the basement door open. We hadn't heard from the 2 friends we'd left behind since we entered the basement, but we were so caught up in our investigation we hadn't even noticed. The 4 of us practically threw ourselves up the stairs, calling their names the entire way. They never responded. We made our way up, only to find an empty room. Our friends had disappeared entirely. No screams, no loud noises, nothing. The police never found them. Every few days, another person goes missing. In the lead up to their disappearance, some of the victims reported hearing footsteps behind them. Every time they appear, they get louder. Please lock your doors, and if you ever hear something walking right behind you, run. I'm sorry. I'm kind of at my wit's end. I've heard of deep fakes and stuff like that, but I don't know. This feels like it's gone too far. Sorry, let me back up. The first time I remember thinking something was off was about 6 months ago. Now, I'm not really into social media, but I do have an account on a certain photo-based platform that I post to every few weeks. Nature picture from hikes, my cats, the occasional selfie of me and my partner, usual stuff. I was scrolling through my old posts one day and noticed something. It was a post I definitely don't remember making. Some kind of blurred pattern. All black and red. It didn't have any likes. I had supposedly posted it 3 months prior. At the time it seemed weird, but I honestly didn't give it much thought. I've had accounts hacked in the past, so I went through the usual steps. Delete the post, change passwords, etc. It didn't happen again for a while, so I figured I was in the clear. Jump forward 5 months. 1 month ago. That's when things started getting scary. I was checking my account, something I did semi-regularly now, and saw 2 more posts. One from 3 weeks ago, the other from 10 days ago. I know for sure that these posts could not have been up there for as long as they said. I probably looked just 3 days before and saw nothing. That was unsettling, but I'm not an expert on these things, so maybe there was a reasonable explanation. But the context of the photos was what really sent a shiver down my spine. The first one, the one that said it was posted 3 weeks ago, was all black and red again. Super saturated and vivid. This one wasn't blurry. But the saturation made it hard to make out. It looked vaguely like a figure from the chest up. The second one, the one from 10 days ago, looked like some variation of the same picture. But this one was clearer. A little grainy, but not hard to make out. No black and red this time. Just a picture of a person from the chest up. Me. It was a picture of me. But it wasn't. The icy eyes were lighter than mine. The pasted-on smile was an expression I've never seen my face make. Not to mention the deep red top with a flared-out collar I was wearing was something I didn't even recognize, much less own. Nevertheless, I searched through the photos on my phone to see if it was somewhere in there. It wasn't, of course. This is where I started thinking about deep fakes. I didn't want to work myself into a panic. This was obviously someone messing with me. It had to be, and I'd be giving them exactly what they wanted if I started freaking out. I don't know why someone would mess with me like this, but it was the only rational explanation. I was about to delete the 2 photos and repeat the password change process when something gave me pause. Just like the last one, neither of these posts had any likes. For the first 2, I could justify it. It seemed unlikely that out of 300-something followers, not one would click the heart mistaking it for abstract art or something. Unlikely, but possible. But that third one was basically a selfie. There's no way it was up for 10 days and nobody liked it. Not even my partner. Which gave me another thought. My partner, I'll just call her Charlie here, was in the other room at the time. I went and asked her to pull up my profile on her phone, and my suspicion was confirmed. She didn't see the photos at all. I showed her from my phone and she agreed that it was creepy, but that I shouldn't get worked up. I figured I'd change my info, but leave those 2 pictures up as evidence or something. I had the feeling now that it wasn't going to stop. And sure enough, 2 weeks later, another picture of me was posted. Different, unfamiliar outfit. This time outside. It looked like the fence in my backyard behind me, but I couldn't tell for certain. Same icy eyes and frozen smile. Every 4 days or so after that, there was another one. They looked crystal clear at this point, unlike the grainy texture in the first few. I contacted the site support and was told that they couldn't see what I was talking about from their end. It was starting to get to me. I was checking for new posts every 5 minutes. I felt paranoid. And that brings us to today. I got home from work and saw a new post was up. The location was pretty clear this time, right across the street from my job, and my face was a little different in this one. Compared to the others, I looked kind of excited in this picture. I had enough. I took one last look at the pictures and deleted my account. As soon as I hit the confirm button, I received a video call from my number. Against my better judgment, I answered it, and there she was, me, creepy smile and all. She was wearing unfamiliar clothes as always, and her movements didn't mirror my own. She wasn't moving much, but I could see the little shifts of the camera and adjustments of the face that showed this wasn't just a still frame. After a moment spent, frozen in fear, I noticed what was behind her. The same headboard I was resting against, but on the other side of the bed. My head turned to look automatically, but she wasn't there. I looked back to the phone. She was excited. Not just excited, actually. She was thrilled. I must have really been frozen because at that moment Charlie walked in and apparently didn't notice I was in a state. She walked over to her bedside table to grab her chapstick or something, and out of the corner of the screen I saw her. It was Charlie, in this fake me's camera grabbing her chapstick. The imposter's mouth began to move like she was about to say something, but I hit the end call button before she did. I burst into tears, alerting Charlie to my condition. She consoled me, moving us away from the bed and into the living room as I informed her of what happened between sobs. It's now about an hour later. My phone won't stop ringing. I am typing this through tears. I don't know what to do. If someone really is messing with me, congratulations. I'm absolutely terrified. Sorry if this isn't formatted well or doesn't make sense. I'm shaking and I just need to get this out. I guess I am just hoping someone out there has had something like this happen. Or someone with more of an understanding on deep fakes and cybersecurity can provide some sort of reasonable explanation. Please, somebody has to know how to make it stop. I have a bad habit of smoking in the shower. That was the reason the window was open in the first place, to let the smoke and steam out of the bathroom. It was only a few inches, I had told myself, and I lived next to the woods, so it wasn't like I was really in an area known for peeping toms. Still, the thin barrier between the outside and in had been breached. I left the window open when I went to bed. I should have just let the bathroom smell like smoke, but I had family coming over the next day. I guess at the time of writing this, that would be today. Still, when I woke up at 3 in the morning having to pee, I didn't expect to see the window open. Even less so did I expect a voice to come from the other side of it. "Hello? May I come in?" said a man's voice outside my window. It sounded happy, gleeful almost. It had a deep, resonant quality that almost made it sound like multiple voices. "No, thank you," I said. Stupid to respond perhaps, but he clearly knew I was there. And again, I was half awake. The voice behind the window started again. "Oh, that's no fun. Won't you play along?" it asked. The timbre of his voice sounded almost disappointed, but I could still hear the smile behind it, and it sickened me to my core. All of the sudden, I heard a loud and immediate knock at my front door. "Delivery," said a slightly lower voice than the one at the window. I walked slowly across the tile, taking my time. When I reached the front door and finally looked through the peephole, there was no one there. As soon as I pulled away, the voice came again. "Special delivery. Won't you sign for your package?" It asked cheerfully. I realized that the voice sounded too loud, too clear. as if someone had been using a microphone. I was shaking my head no, but realized I hadn't responded aloud to the voice. "I'll get it in the morning. Thank you," I said, still trying to somehow appease the voice that was very clearly impossible on every side of my house. The shock still hadn't hit me. It was too early to fully comprehend the severity of the situation. "Please sign for the package. Open the door. Let me in." The deep voice was still jovial, but pleading now. It almost played on my sympathy. Almost. "No one delivers mail at 3 in the morning. Whatever you are, I won't let you in." It was so hard being blunt in the face of the pure, unadulterated terror I felt. But I knew that my terror was what it wanted, what it was trying to feed on. I tried to act quickly. I ran back to the bathroom as swiftly as I could, slamming shut the window in a futile attempt to get away from the voice's attention. Walking up close to the window filled me with dread and made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. But still, I approached the window. Nearly the second it was closed, something hit the window hard. I jumped back in surprise. It took me a full minute to recognize the face of one of my neighbors. A quiet woman from next door, pressed firmly against the glass. The angle that her head was facing made it very clear that there was nobody beneath it, as her neck was stuck to the left side of the window, clearly being held up. I retched, but couldn't keep my eyes away from where I knew my captor was standing, just to the left of my window. "Oh, neighbor," came a practically singing voice. Still the same voice as each time, but this time at a mockingly high pitch, clearly trying to emulate a woman's. "Won't you let me in?" it asked. "Something out here is trying to rip me into bloody pieces." I stood absolutely still, as if I could still pretend to not have heard the voice. What options did I have in this moment? What could I do against a force that clearly had me surrounded and took pleasure in the fact? "Neighbor, please let me in. Please?" The falsely high-pitched voice was now begging. "He'll kill me. He'll dismember me. Who knows what he'll do to me then? Let me in, let me in, let me in." The end of each sentence was punctuated by a slam of her head against the window. I was crying now, unable to stop myself. I had done nothing to deserve this, nothing to provoke whatever creature was hunting me. "Your lips aren't even moving," I whispered. This made the banging stop, and for a moment I thought I'd beaten the thing with just my words. I was so hopeful that this waking nightmare would come to an end that I didn't even question why that would give it pause. I was just happy it was over. "If you won't even pretend to play along with my little game," the creature snarled, "then why am I still pretending to need permission to come in?" A slow, steady knock came from every window and door in my house. The one in front of me, the one with my neighbor's head. The knock was being made by slamming her face into the window over and over again, turning it slowly into a bloody mess as I watched her skull fracture. And even then it did not stop. I couldn't look away. I wish I had run then, but where could I leave from without being followed? I had never been particularly fast. Instead, I watched in mute horror as the face kept slamming into my window, growing more and more deformed, with knocking at every possible exit in my home. If my suspicions about my neighbor's lack of body had been false, she was very dead at this point. All at once, the knocking stopped and was replaced by a tiny metallic thump one at a time. I'm sure it could have unlocked every door at once if it had had the mind to, but I think it was still, even then, toying with me, still trying to convince me it was just one entity, that it could only be in one place at once. I ended up hiding in my bedroom closet. I could have picked somewhere less obvious if I had had time, but I don't often catalog the best hiding places in my house. I've been sitting in here for about an hour, giving me time to type this. I think this is what it wants, to be known. I can hear it against the tile floor. It paces back and forth around my bedroom, claws skittering against the floor back and forth. Sometimes when it's closer, I can smell a musky forest scent mixed with the clear, unambiguous scent of my neighbor's blood. I tried calling the police, of course, but as the phone rang, I could hear the claws stop dead in their tracks, and I knew the punishment for telling them what was going on would be severe. I knew somehow that I was already dead, and this would simply speed up the process. I tried to call some of my loved ones to let them know I loved them. When I did this, the voice laughed uproariously, so much so that I knew they wouldn't be able to hear a word I said. When it laughed, I realized it now sounded less loud, less clear than before, muffled behind the door of my closet. That's where I am now. I know that it's getting restless. I know that it's waiting for me to finish typing this so that other people can know it, can begin to fear it before it even comes for them. I wish I had advice or a morale. I wish this story could have a warning like, don't talk back to the voices outside your window at night. I wish all of those things. But no, I was doomed from the moment I heard the voice. Probably even before then. Because I realized too late that the voice hadn't been coming from outside my window. The two were unrelated. The voice had been coming from inside my house the whole time. It was when I was a lot younger, when I was 5 to 7 years old. I was staying on my grandpa's property that was roughly 80 acres in Queensland, Australia. It was early in the morning in winter, I'm guessing, around 5 to 6 a.m. I got up to go to the bathroom, which you had to walk out onto the patio and into a separate room not accessible from the house to use. I went and did my business and washed my hands, and I walked out to return to bed. I looked around at the fog and surveyed my surroundings. As I looked around, I looked towards a red couch we had on the patio. Behind it, I saw a humanoid thing. It had grayish pale skin, around shoulder-length, dark, greasy-looking hair, and it also had yellow/orange eyes. It opened its lips and smiled, showing sharp, needle-like teeth. It looked like it had dark, dried blood down its chin and chest. It was skinny. I could see its ribs and hip bones. It didn't seem to have genitalia. I was terrified, and this made its smile widen. I was sleeping in a cabin not attached to the house with my little brother and my father. I knew I had to go back in the cabin, but I was afraid to take my eyes off it. So I walked backwards down the ramp off the patio until I was far enough away I felt safe enough to turn and run. I opened the door and slammed it shut. I jumped into bed with my dad and went back to sleep. After everyone woke up in the morning, I told my grandmother, who said, "It wouldn't want to hurt you. No one would want to hurt a little girl." I didn't pay attention at the time, but the way she called that thing and it leaves me wondering. And then I told my dad. He got mad. He said, "Why didn't you tell me? I could have gotten up and asked why she was on my father's property." I called it a lady. Another thing that was going on was my grandma had been going on walks and seeing a large black dog. In the end, I didn't see it again and we went home. As I got older, I got internet access and fell in love with horror movies and stories about cryptids. That's when I found the story of the Native American skinwalker. It matched the description. So I brought it up to my father. "We are part native," to which he replied with, "Don't be stupid. That was just a weird lady and you imagined the orange eyes." but I heavily believe that's what I saw that morning. Today is still Tuesday. It's been Tuesday for, I don't know. I've gave up on trying to keep track. It's been Tuesday, 10:24 a.m. for God knows how long, and I can't make it stop. Time passes, sure. The sun goes down and comes back up. But no matter what, every clock in the house says 10:24, and every digital calendar tells it's Tuesday. I've watched as time passes. 10:24 becomes 10:25, 10:26, 10:27, as long as I look at the clock. The minute I look away, 10:24 a.m., and I can't get anyone on the phone. My wife, my boss, my daughter's daycare, my parents, straight to voicemail. I'm getting lots of texts and emails from everyone telling me there's nothing wrong. They're fine, but I cannot get anyone to answer the phone. I'm probably rambling. Let me back up and explain. When the pandemic hit, like most companies, mine switched to working remotely from home. It worked out great for me, because our daughter was born just before things ramped up, so we really needed to be home with her since her daycare shut down. Once things started opening back up, daycare did as well, and at that point we really needed her at daycare. My wife's office opened back up, but my company recognized we could do our jobs just as well, if not better, at home than in the office. So they kind of let us working in the office or at home at our own leisure, provided we're getting our work done. At some point, I can't even remember how long ago, my wife left to drop our daughter off at daycare and just never came home. I typically get wrapped up in what I'm doing, so I didn't notice at first, but every time I looked down at my phone, the time still read 10:24 a.m. At first I thought something was going on with the clocks on my phone and computer, but then I noticed the microwave and oven didn't seem to be working either. Confused, I texted my wife, but she reassured me there wasn't anything weird on her end. As the day went on, and I started feeling more and more paranoid, I asked her what time she had. After some convincing, she told me 10:24. I tried to explain none of the clocks changed, but she kind of just brushed me off and told me she was busy and couldn't talk. I'm not a goldfish, so I know that time is passing. So as the day went on, I continued getting more and more anxious. I tried to call her, but all I got was voicemail. As the sun started going down and it started getting darker, I started to worry. I asked if she would be leaving soon to pick up our daughter, but she reassured me she would get here in about 6 hours when she gets out of work. Night fell and she never came home. When she would answer me, which was only by text, it was to tell me nothing is wrong, but she's really busy and can't talk right now. The following day, after a completely sleepless night of fear and anger, I decide she's run off somewhere and try to reach our daughter's daycare. Surely they could tell me when my wife picked up our daughter yesterday, and maybe knew if something seemed wrong. I call the main office and voicemail. I email the director, and she assures me everything is fine and my wife dropped our daughter off on that day, Tuesday at 7:30 a.m. I've made countless similar emails and text messages, and it's all the same, and I could almost live with it, if it weren't for the fact that nothing in our house seems to change. Any food I eat reappears. Garbage I throw away disappears from the garbage can. Anything I put from one place to another materializes back in its original spot. Not right in front of my eyes, but if I leave the room, it's as if whatever I did in that room never happened. I'll give you all an example. I've got a bowl of 5 bananas on the counter in my kitchen, which has been there for who the F knows. I eat one, and now I've got 4. And there will always be 4, as long as I sit there and look at them, or even as long as I'm in the kitchen. But if I walk away to go to the bathroom or get something out of my office, 5 bananas, in a bowl, yellow as the day we bought them, and I'm almost positive it's not like magic. Someone or something is doing it, and the only reason I say that at this point is because I hear things. Our house is decent sized, not huge, but large enough. We moved in right around when my daughter was born and the pandemic started. Our previous house was a 1-story, 2-bedroom house, and with my wife and I working from home with an infant, we were always on top of each other. I joked with my wife when we first moved in how weird it was being in a house where I sometimes don't know where she was because we could always hear each other no matter what part of the house we were in. What I'm trying to say is, it's a house where you can leave one room and not necessarily know what's happening in another. And what's happening is often something. When I leave a room, I hear things. Footsteps, doors opening, doors closing, maybe a window every now and then. What often happens is something like this. I'll eat a bowl of cereal and a cup of coffee, wash them and put them in the dish strainer, eat an apple or a banana, and sit around my living room getting work done. I used to work in the office, but now I need to be in the center of the house for my own sanity. Eventually I'll get up to use the bathroom or grab my slippers, or just get something I need, and I'll start hearing it. A door opens somewhere, maybe there's footsteps, maybe there's not. Maybe another door somewhere closes. I walk back into the living room. Whatever dishes I've used are back in the cupboard, and I've got 5 bananas or apples again. And maybe I could live with all of this if it weren't for the fact I can't leave. I don't know why. For some reason I can't leave the house. I haven't been outside in I don't know how long, and believe me, I've tried. I'm not sure what a panic attack feels like, but it's like I get a major panic attack anytime I try to walk out the door. I don't know if it's all in my head, or if I'm being drugged or haunted, or hell, maybe I'm in a coma, and this is what a coma is like in 2020, if it even still is. All I know is, I miss my wife, I miss my daughter, and I have no idea if they're really okay. So here I sit screaming into the void on a Tuesday at 10:24 a.m. I've always wanted to go to a hockey game, and when I moved to Canada, it seemed like the perfect time. I didn't and still don't know much about hockey. I did some basic research to make sure I knew the basics, but further than that, I had no clue. The first game I went to was with friends, and it was nothing like I was expecting. In fact, I questioned many things I had read. Now, even though I didn't know much, I did know some team names. However, that didn't help me. The game was between stick magnets and the penalty box brawlers. I joked they sounded punny, but my friends didn't laugh. The rink we entered was dark, with barely any lighting anywhere. There were lights on the ice, but even they were an odd color that reminded me of old school sepia photos with a more red hue. I followed my group of friends to our seats and noticed the plastic wrapping on nearly everything. I questioned it but got told I wouldn't know because I'd never been to a game before. Looking around, I saw people near the front taking out single-use raincoats and pulling them on before getting themselves seated. I took more notice of the ice and frowned at the thick slab in the middle of the ice. As I continued to look at it, I could see a seam around the top edge, leading me to wonder if this was a box of some sort. As the seats filled to capacity, the referee made his way onto the ice, followed by the 2 teams. I was immediately struck by the appearance of both teams. I imagined they'd be hulking men with muscles hidden under their jerseys and armor. These players all looked gray and weedy. They looked sick. The referee motioned to someone off to the side, and the slab did in fact turn out to be a box, and as it opened, both teams lurched forward to view its contents. The referee stayed back for a moment, seemingly steeling himself to get closer before gliding over and taking out a large dagger. "It's ceremonial," one of my friends called into my ear over the roaring crowd. "What is?" I tilted my head to him but couldn't take my eyes off the ice, and then the large screen caught my attention. It showed the inside of the box. A man, no older than myself and my friends, was laying naked and shivering in the box. The dagger for the sacrifice. Oh, wait, what? No sooner had I asked this question for clarification and the referee had brought down the dagger into the abdomen of the still living man. He screamed, and as the knife was dragged up in a straight line to open his skin, he coughed up blood. The referee used the hilt of the dagger to smash open the rib cage and pull out various organs. Onto the ice came two assistants who moved the box off the ice to the area directly in front of us. The lighting may have been terrible, but I could tell the corpse was smiling. "Here it comes," called another friend. I looked back up to the ice just in time to see a kidney being plopped onto the ice, and two players facing up to each other for control. Were they using a kidney as a puck? It was at this point I took notice of the hockey sticks. Usually wooden from what my research told me, but these looked scarily like bones. Leg bones, to be specific. Entire leg bones fixed into place with sinew to keep their length. The femoral head was the part being used to hit the puck around the rink. I was in so much shock that I had completely missed the start of the game and had to refocus my eyes to keep track of what was happening. What was going on? I stared with my mouth agape as blood continued to smear and freeze onto the ice, only looking up to my right as my friend jostled me happily and cheered. I wanted to leave. I wanted to stand up and make my way out of that place and never look back, but as I started looking for an escape, I noticed all the entrance and exit doors were shut and had large security in front of them. I was just wondering what the worst could be if I tried to leave. What would they do to me? Someone had the same thought as me and tried to do just that, only to find themselves thrown on the ice into the middle of a blood-frenzied game. The crowd roared with excitement as the would-be escapee was set upon by the goalkeeper, who wasted no time in cutting open his throat and watched him bleed out onto the ice. The body was left where it fell and the game continued. The kidney became too hardened to be used properly, losing all color and consistency as it slid around the ice and into goal nets, but the halftime buzzer broke me out of my next thought, wondering what they would use next. The teams cleared from the ice, and a clown skated on. His appearance was that of a love child between Pennywise and Twisty on crack. He motioned for something from the assistants and was thrown two freshly removed eyeballs from the earlier sacrifice. He played juggling with the two, but made sad faces when he couldn't do his tricks. Next, he made a motion of remembering something and skated to the dead body of the guy who tried to escape. The clown pulled out with his gloved hand an eyeball. The crowd cheered louder and whistled as he began his routine in earnest. After the eyeball juggling came skipping tricks with an intestine, and finally a puppet show with the head and spinal cord of the sacrifice. I was just about to bring up my earlier food when body parts began getting thrown into the crowd from one of those t-shirt launchers. I was stunned into silence and compliance. The second half of the game was much the same as the first, but instead they used a liver as the puck. More people tried to escape, and soon the ice was red with frozen blood from the dead bodies. When they got in the way, a player would rip off a limb from a body and throw it in the crowd, piece by piece until it was all gone. A man behind me caught a head and acted like he's caught a stray baseball. Apparently getting the head is good luck. The game came to a close and I have no idea of the score. It seemed a team got extra points for killing someone on the ice, and depending on if they were male or female depended on the amount of points. Also, if one team killed someone who was on the opposition side, that gave extra points. I know the stick magnets won, and they were extremely happy at this. I found out why a few moments later when the losing team were led onto the ice in nothing but their underwear and socks. They were gaunt and gangly. I could count every single rib on each player. Hip bones jutted out at odd angles, and shoulder blades looked sharp enough to cut meat. The winning team talked amongst themselves as they seemed to look over the losers, and then one by one they went up to a losing team member and removed a leg from their chosen person. The men screamed and writhed in agony, but didn't make any moves to get away. Next, the winners bend forward and continue to rip into the bodies with their hands and teeth. It takes an age, but each of the winners eats one of the opponents until there's nothing but bones left. These are quickly tidied off the ice and taken out through a door. Once each of the winners had a leg, they skated off the ice to the sounds of cheering from adoring fans. The men raised their chosen legs in the air in victory. Next, 2 men wearing a jersey from each team walked onto the ice. That's the managers of the teams, I was told to my left. Oh. The manager from the losing team becomes the next sacrifice, to my right. I nod numbly and watch as the losing manager takes off his jersey and hands it to the winning manager. If they refuse, then a member of the team from the benches is chosen, to my left. The man bowed his head solemnly before nodding and being injected with something. The sacrifice must be willing. My left again. He was placed on a stretcher and carried off ice by the assistants. He'll be kept alive and on ice. Sacrifices must be alive. From my right. I see. I nod and try to feign interest. A few moments later and the doors were opened. I tried to shuffle slowly to our exit and not make it obvious I wanted to run away from this place at full speed. On the way to the parking lot we pass by the merchandise stand where I see the bones from the losing team up for sale alongside shorts, caps, and pin badges. Want anything? I'm asked by one of my friends. Oh, no, thank you. I smile as best I could. Holding out for a better team? Smart move. I say goodbye to my friends as we split up and head to our respective cars in the lot. I sit in my car gripping the steering wheel and keeping my eyes on the road ahead, waiting for my turn to leave as the busy car park empties slowly. I wave to friends as they pass me by and put on a happy smile when I actually want to throw up. While waiting in the queue for the exit, a message pops up on my phone and my reader quotes it back to me with a happy tone I could never copy. There's another game next weekend. We've got your ticket already. You're gonna fit right in. I don't have a great connection, but I wanted to throw this story out into the ether and see if anyone could help me. It all started simply enough. Myself, my best friend Greg, and our mutual friend Nico have been hobby ghost hunters for years now. We have stuck mainly to areas close to where we all live in Arkansas. Abandoned farmhouses, reportedly haunted bridges, and mysterious cemeteries. Recently, our YouTube channel has begun to get a boost in viewers. After being on a well-known countdown channel, people started piling in to see our escapades. We began to receive sponsorship deals, and Nico was even able to quit his job to seriously focus on the day-to-day of running our channel and socials. He became our kind of de facto manager. He'd keep up on business emails, so it came as no surprise when he phoned me some time ago to talk about something interesting in our inbox. A production company out of Italy, Tuffator Productions, wanted to develop a TV show based around our ghost hunts. We met with the producers over Zoom, and they laid out the deal they were offering. They would send us to haunted locations around the world, and we'd bring our backwoods charm to the proceedings, along with compelling footage of possible paranormal events. We were frankly over the moon about the possibility of traveling the world and doing what we loved. Maybe that's why we didn't look too closely at the deal. We scraped together a bit of cash and hired a contract lawyer, and he explained that the contract was fairly standard and fair. He mentioned a strange clause about death, dismemberment, and disappearance, but we assumed since we'd be in abandoned buildings that the production crew were just covering their butts. After getting all the clear from our lawyer, we signed the contract and committed to an initial order of 2 episodes, which the production company would pitch to a bunch of different networks. I won't bore you with the contract specifics, but Nico, Greg, and I each received a handsome payment for our time, with a guaranteed amount if the show got picked up. Within a week of signing the contract, we were on a plane to Boston. From there, we took an extremely long boat ride to where we are now, Griffith's Lighthouse. We disembarked with our camera gear and a week's worth of supplies. There was no crew, just us for 7 days on this supposedly haunted little chunk of rock somewhere in the Atlantic. We were expected to be picked up in the morning of the 7th day, but that never happened. I'm entering what I think is my 17th day on the island, and I don't think anyone is coming for me. The first 7 days were fine. We gathered footage, hung out, and spent way too much time talking about how rich we were going to be once the show got picked up. We got some okay EVP, and a wind gust slamming the door to the lighthouse will probably be used to promote the show for years to come. Greg said it was a moment that should be forever enshrined in the opening credits. On the morning of the 7th day, when our boat didn't come, we weren't too worried. It looked like a storm was coming in, and we assumed no one would try to travel in it. We dragged our stuff back inside, determined to wait it out. That night, while the storm raged outside, the door to the lighthouse slammed open again while we sat not 10 feet from it, playing cards. I hopped up to shut it, and in a flash of lightning, I swear I saw someone outside. They were just standing at the top of the steps that led down to the docks, and they were waving. I told Nico and Greg, and they blew it off as imagination. We'd been in this creepy place for a week, and it was getting easier to psych ourselves out. Greg was next to see our strange visitor. It was day 9 or 10, and he had walked down to the dock to see if he could see any boats that he could maybe signal. He came rushing back to the lighthouse, pale and panting. He swore that he had looked down into the water and seen a man on his back, just under the surface of the water, waving. He said the man was clearly dead, and his body was bloated and his skin was stretching and tearing, revealing black seams of rot. The next day, Nico went missing. At this point, we did a full search of the island. It wasn't difficult, as it's just a lighthouse on a rock outcrop. You could see the whole island from the top of the lighthouse. During our search, I found something that guarantees I'm never leaving this place. I almost didn't notice it at first. I was wandering the island, shouting for Nico, when my foot caught on something, sending me sprawling to the ground. When I finally got myself up, I saw that it was a chain. I grabbed at it, intending to pull it out of the ground. Instead, I lifted up a door buried in the wet earth. As the door lifted, my nose was assaulted by the god-awful stench of decay. There was a small set of metal steps leading down, and having no concern for my own safety, I trudged down. At the bottom of the stairs, there was a chamber, maybe about 50 feet long, 50 feet wide. Up against the back wall, there were boxes. Boxes just like the ones we had brought our gear in. Surrounding the boxes were bodies. A great heap of bodies. I covered my nose and got closer. The bodies were a scattershot of different rates of decay. Some looked fairly fresh, while others were almost skeletons. I started noticing some of them were wearing t-shirts emblazoned with different ghost hunting teams. A body of a woman no more than 25 years old was wearing a Ghost Getters shirt. A man near her was wearing one with CIGS, Central Indiana Ghost Society patches. The more I looked, the more ghost hunting teams I found. I heard shuffling behind me and ran to the stairs to catch Greg before he came down. I looked up and instead of Greg, saw a waterlogged corpse staring at me, holding the corner of the trapdoor covering the hatch. He gave a little wave and slammed it shut. I rushed up, expecting to be locked in this place forever, like the bodies decomposing all around me. But the trapdoor freely gave way and I burst into the gray sunlight of the island. 2 days ago, while I was sitting on the dock trying to catch fish with a small bit of fishing line and a hook Nico had squirreled away in his suitcase, I heard what sounded like a scream starting before immediately being cut off. I ran to the top of the stairs and saw Greg standing at the railing around the lighthouse. He was half-heartedly waving, so I waved back and headed back to the dock to see if I could catch some food. When I returned a few hours later, I saw that Greg was still standing exactly where he had been before, still waving in that strange, half-hearted way. As I got closer, I realized why. Greg was dead. His throat was slashed from ear to ear, but there was no blood. He had been roughly lashed to the railing with old rope, with his right arm left free to dangle in the wind. I didn't even bother untying him. I just ran. I ran for the trapdoor, threw it open, and barreled down into this tomb. I've been here 2 days by my reckoning. I searched the gearboxes and found this phone. I also found camera gear dating back to what I think is the 60s. In the last 2 days, I've heard sounds up top. Wrenching, grinding sounds, laughing, banging, and a low gurgling that keeps happening right outside the door of the hatch. I've braced a tripod on either side of the door, and I'll leave it that way. Today I heard a new sound. It sounds like a boat engine, and it's getting closer and closer every hour. I'm at Griffith's Lighthouse in the Atlantic Ocean, and although my friends are surely dead, I am not alone. I have been working at this new hospital for around a month now. It was an amazing opportunity, good benefits and hours. Close to home, and I could finally live out my dream of being a nurse. First day was fine, like any other day, and yeah, the smells coming from the patient rooms were off-putting, but what did I expect from a hospital? Rose-scented candles? Of course not. That's fine. Focus on your job. My boss keeps the rooms on lock and key, not allowing anyone in or out without his permission, especially room 209, but again, not abnormal. I think patient safety and all. Jason, my coworker, says I shouldn't question it, and maybe he's right. He's been here for 6 years, but I can't let go of that smell. There's groans and moans from room 209, right by the end of the hall on my side of the hospital. It must have been the 30-hour shift and lack of caffeine, because I could have sworn I heard a scream from there, but Jason and my boss said it was nothing. They went in and came out just fine. Boss had some blood splatter on his shoes. Said it was from surgery. About 2 weeks in was when it really started. Maybe it's my lack of sleep and long shifts. Maybe my brain is playing tricks on me, but room 209 scares me. The smell comes from all rooms, but the worst of it seeps out of room 209. Walking past it is like walking into a morgue with temperatures of Arizona. Death lingers when you leave, and the groans echo in my ears. Lately I've heard scratching too. Gina, a friend and coworker, told me the rumors of experimental vaccines and treatments they do here. She refuses to go into detail, but I've heard about these things. Doctors will take dying patients and use them as guinea pigs in hopes of winning some prize. Thing is, they often don't account for certain things, and it ends up going wrong. Terribly wrong. I did my research. Nothing about my hospital said anything of experiments. I'll ask Jason. He's close with our boss. I fear the worst, though, so I'm writing here to keep a paper trial. And say it's the lack of sleep and long shifts, but room 209? What are you hiding? Was it a mistake taking this job? If something's too good to be true, is it? On a lunch break in room 209 won't leave my mind. More things are adding up. The patients that check in and never seem to check out. The empty morgue despite the deaths. The deaths. Poor Jason. He's called over 10 deaths since I've been here. I called one and it was hard. I can't imagine how he feels. But where do the bodies go? I've been to the morgue. It's empty. There's no smell there. You'd think from a morgue there would be, but there isn't. Death doesn't linger in the morgue. It lingers in and by room 209, and I'm dying to know what's behind that door. So, I've been home alone for the past few days. Grandparents are out of town. Dog with a sitter because of my long hours. This is usually fine, but lately something has been different. Yesterday when I got home from work, the back door was unlocked. I could have sworn I locked it when I left, but it's a sliding glass door, so I brushed it off as me not flipping the latch far enough. I forgot about it and went on with my night. Smoked a bowl or two, made some dinner. At this point it was dark, probably close to 2 a.m. The only lights were the ones I had turned on, which aren't many, as I was in the process of shutting down everything for the night. I was brushing my teeth for the night when I saw it. Out of the corner of my eye, a shadow. It moved across the periphery so fast I almost didn't see it. I brushed it off as my hair moving in the breeze of the AC or something. I have anxiety, so it's not unusual for me to get freaked out over nothing like that. Assuming it was just that, I kept getting ready for bed. But then I saw it again. I ran down the hallway in front of my door, gliding like a black shadow rather than a person. A trick of the eyes, it must be. But the door to my grandma's office creaked open. My heart froze, anxiety going full force, adrenaline coursing through me. I mustered all my courage and went to check out the office. I slowly pushed open the door, shining my phone's flashlight around until I was comfortably sure the room was empty. I don't know why I didn't just turn on the light and go in, but it was as if something was telling me not to. So I simply closed the door and left, trying to tell myself it was all just my imagination, that I had left that door open a tad earlier. I would go to the bathroom one last time, go to bed, and everything would be normal in the morning. At night before bed, I like to pee in the dark. It's a weird habit I've developed over the years to try to help make sleep come easier. My bedroom is right next door with a lamp on. It's bright enough to see by from the bathroom, As I was washing my hands, the light flickered. Instinctively, I turned to look. I wish I hadn't. There was nothing in the hallway, but when I turned back, something was different. My blood felt like ice in my veins as I tried frantically to both find the difference and stay calm enough to sleep. And that's when I noticed my reflection in the mirror. It was staring at me. No, not just at me. Into me. I was sure my face must be frozen in horror, but the reflection didn't look scared at all. It looked like it was smirking. It looked like me, but something was off. My hair was too tangled, eyes too dark and sunken, her cheeks too gaunt and bones poking through the skin in a way I was sure mine hadn't in years. I didn't know what to do. I bolted to my bedroom and pulled the covers over my head like it would protect me from it. Like it could protect me from it. I'm sitting here typing this now. It's set to auto-upload tomorrow. I don't know if I did the right thing. Something in me is telling me I shouldn't have stopped looking at her. That I should have left the bathroom light on. That I should have never looked in that mirror after dark. I see the shadows more clearly now. I don't know how I could have ever confused them for humans. They're waiting on me to come out, on me to turn the light off and fall asleep. It's her fault, I know it is. I'm praying that this was just my anxiety, and if it's not, that she's still stuck in that mirror.